Yeah. You know, I may have said something about being in a parking lot. And I says, man, your parking lot is empty right now. I'm standing in a parking lot. You know, it's a little dark, but we says, man, we put some parking lots. You know, there's lights out there, man. He says, man, it's like, how can I fill up this parking lot? You know, and somebody says, well, if I fill up this parking lot, and then the parking lot over there is full, you know, how do I get people from other places in there? How do I overflow this building out of the building and into the community? So I started this speech, you know, like a big 10-4 from God, man. And it's like, so I'm at the grocery store and I'm like, man, you're getting groceries for your family? Well, don't just adopt a Walmart with junk food. You know, have fun. You know, we made some stuff, you know, for you to eat that you might enjoy, but you need health food, man. And it says, well, you know, if I get over there from that parking lot and I go grocery shopping for the mind at an Impact Christian Church, then maybe I get enough people in there like a football team, like a virtual football team for the atmosphere, to make a better atmosphere in the community, for the atmosphere of earth, to build an atmosphere for God, so we can explore the entire universe and a multiverse for a multitude of people, you know? God's people, you know? Says, how can I make that impact? I said, man, I got to get my checklist out. Hold on. You know, you always see the football coach. They go out on the field. They got their little headset on and stuff, you know. That's their people for football. And then they start teaching these kids. They're like, man, I need you to stay at school. I need you to get good grades. Get out there on that field, man. Hey, you want to tackle people for money and destroy things, man? No, man, I need you to go out there and do that and be heroes so people can see you on the field tackling people, man. Like, I tackled that guy, man. And I want to win for God, man. They're throwing this football. It's like, I don't want that nuclear football. You take it. No, you take it, man. Hey, don't destroy the world. Go tackle that guy with a football again. Stop him, man. And then, hey, did you get a goal? You learn about physics so you play better football? Man, that's great, man. He's in the infield. It's like, what's the infield, man? That's the field at the end of the field, man. We're walking off the field into a field of dreams called America. You know? Why can't we have, you know, football coaches like that? The football coaches like, because I'm preaching about the football and I need that church to preach about the planet. You know? You know, more than a church, more than a building. I got institutions of education all over America. You know? I wrote this down. I was like, man, you don't never see a football coach walk out on a field with a clipboard, man. He's like, man, this is like the inspection from God every time you go into church. It's like the guy standing at the podium. He's got more than one book. And he goes, because it's more than a book. And like, nobody understands that. I got that preacher in that podium in that church right now. And he's like, man, I got a book, I got notes, and I got a couple other books. And it's like that preacher's up there at that podium. He opens up that Bible, he reads a few verses, he explains them to you, and he says, if I got to expand upon that to let you people know that it's more than a book, he closes the book, sets it aside, and opens another book and says, man, let me tell you about this education. So he says, man, people out there are doing too much drugs, man. Couldn't get focused, you know? And it's like, man, I'll tell you what, we'll make those football players heroes. More than a football player on a field. It's a guy that's got, man, I got mental control, man. I'm trying to play a game on this field. I'm trying to win because it's more than a trophy, man. It's a way of life. Those people, man, are like a bunch of roughnecks, man, going out there beating each other up and stuff. I was like, man, if you want to do something like that, man, stop doing that and get on the football field. Get on the baseball field. Get on the hockey. You know, why I got hockey? He says, you see those guys with the hockey stick? You know, it's like, man, they're skating on ice. And they go, I can't believe they did that thing to Tanya Harding. I'm like, man, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to go to the Junior Olympics, man. Oh, man, I knocked that guy on the floor, man. He says, hold on, let me help you up. Sportsmanship. Trying to teach some of those men how to be gentlemen. It's like, man, what if that guy can do that, man? Maybe they won't go do Tanya Harding stuff again, man. It's like, man, you get those people out there in the Olympics, they're like, why is that woman acting like a lady skating on ice? And it's like, man, because it's thin ice out there, man. It's like God said, you all are on thin ice. I need you to be ladies and gentlemen. It's like, how do we teach that? I says, I got a checklist. Hold on. Y'all dazed and confused, man. It's like, man, they couldn't understand husband and wife, man and woman. I'm like, that dazed and confused did way too much drugs out there, man. I'm like, Well, how do we get them out of that field, man? They're in the left field somewhere, man, and we got to get them into the right field like righteousness. We got to get them to walk away from that left field and get into the right field. It's like, man, don't let the left hand, those people that ain't got any brains know what you're doing. Just put a surprise like a big Christmas for all, So we do that every year, and it says, man, it's more than a religion. It's more than a holiday, man. This is more than a holiday. The guy says, man, I'm going to build an executive airport and let them know that it's more than an airplane. Holiday flight school, man. You got the silver lining? They put a sterling silver right there. You're pure heart. We got a sterling flight school. You don't like that? We need epic fuels, man. If you can protect the environment, then you can protect the people of God, man. It's like more than an airport. And it's more than a movie theater. This is, man, if that little old town, Titusville, has an epic movie theater trying to get people to learn about parental guidance, and they can launch something else other than a shuttle out into the world all the way up to Jacksonville and throughout the United States, then maybe we'll get a real football game for God going on. He says, what's the problem? Well, someone said it was a Chinese lady who was talking to me. I'm like, man, a Chinese lady? I says, yeah, the Chinese lady is talking to me. I'm like, man. And she says, how do I teach them to triangulate? Triangulate? And I says, well, they got to go to school and learn a little bit about math and geometry. And how to get the geometrics on how to be a good person for God. How do I do that? And the gentleman said, hold on. If they're so dehydrated of, proper thoughts and how to be ladies and gentlemen, like a one nation of nations for God and how to be an example, because the rest of the world is just like falling apart. Then we'll fall apart first, and then we'll raise ourselves out of the ashes, man, and be like, man, you guys see what America's doing? That way we're a freedom light to the world. It's like a lighthouse out there in space, man. They go, man, what do you mean? He says, don't you know we made all these lights in these parking lots you could see from space? Somewhere out there in the universe, someone's looking at Earth right now going, hey, there's a lot of darkness on that side of the planet, but the sun, it lights this side of the planet up. But hey, even in the darkness, not just from Earth, we're looking to space to see the stars, but from space, looking to Earth to see the light. He says, man, what is that NASA Space Mission Center, man? Well, another guy, he said, well, hold on, I'll be right back. Thousands of years ago. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. It says dazed and confused. Dazed and confused. Well, didn't they get education, man? It's like everybody's like, I got a bunch of money, so let's get married. And then their marriages fall apart. And it's like, man, I need more than a marriage, man. I need a wedding of truth. But how do they know the truth if they don't have any education? It's like, man, they can't even talk to each other. Dazed and confused without education. That's the 3-point plan. It's like, man, and somebody in the Navy says, man, if they've fallen that far away from God, then I'm going to go on a submarine, man, for Tennessee, from the mountains above to the deepest waters below. And I'm going to take my angel and I'm going to be like, man, this is how people are supposed to live like a family. We sit down every night, man, at the table and we have dinner together. You go, what do you mean? They tell all those football players, man, we want you to eat healthy. You got to be healthy to get out there on that field for God. You got to be healthy in the mind to get out there on that field for God. Did you guys sit down and eat as a family before you showed up for football practice to get out there on that field for God? It says, what education? What education? It's filling that blank space. What education? What education? Where does it come from? The heavens above and the heavens below. The only people that can curse earth is the people of earth. So what do you stand for, man? Do you stand for God or destruction? To deny yourself of the truth of education, of proper morals and ethics, and how to be a family with family values for faith and trust. It's like, man, God didn't curse earth. Ignorance did. And how do we get them and stand them up? And stand like ladies and gentlemen and run towards that chapel. First, they have to go to church. I don't care if you go to a building or if you go to a space mall with an Impact Christian Academy. It says, man, that JSO is like, man, they're driving out there every night. It's like, man, how much education these people got? I'm about to knock on a door and see if I can solve their problem. Somebody called because people are arguing. Are they just having an argument? We're like, it's a knockdown, drag-out thing going on in there. And then we try to show up, open the door, and then boom, then they take it out on us. It's like, man, it's like, that's gambling, man. You know, we're like, hey, you know, the JSO says, man, I'm going to show them. I'm trying to help these people. What am I supposed to do, man? It's like a gamble every time I go out there. And some people say, man, God said not to gamble, man. I got to quit. That's why some people were quitting, man. They were like, I quit. I can't take it. I can't watch it no more. And it says, well, hold on. What we need is a virtual football game, man. It says, man, a virtual football? Well, if we can influence the minds and hearts of the many, then those many people going out there in the community to help you goes, hey, man, we got alternative court services, man. You need an anger management class? It says, man, go and get some God. I walked into the courthouse and I said, can we get some for God? You know, can we stop dragging the good people into the courthouse? Can we get out there in the field and get some of those good people out there in the field to get some of those people into a church, a school building, a positive community, and if need be, take them to the judge, man. Settle with your brothers before you go to court, because your brother might just send you to the judge, man. And it's like, man, what's the judge? And I says, man, you ever seen one of those crazy ministers walk into a courthouse and just start cleaning everything out? Everybody's out there like rooting them on, like, man, he's going to get that judge. He's going to get that lawyer, man, you know? And I says, no, I'm going to get those people. And then I'm going to show you what the lawyers and the judges really do. And they go, man. And it says, yeah, man. You know, there's two types of court, man. There's one is like judgment, and then there's a ruling. He's like, man. It's like, that's why Mr. Kirk put in all that paperwork, man. It's going to be a ruling. Because a judgment is in the air, you know. I says, man, the judgment's in the air. Yeah, the atmosphere, man. I need a ruling. How do you measure the kingdom of heaven? I says, man, can I measure their hearts and their minds just a little bit? You know, I says, man, what are they doing out there? I says, man, I look at a judge and I'm like, hold on, I'll be right back. They asked me, man, I came to Jacksonville, man, I'm in Jacksonville and I'm taking some notes and trying to get these aerospace companies and these airports working together to get people, you know, like Operation Green Tree, you know, like they made a cartoon a long time ago about that. It says, Green Tree, man, restoring the earth, you know. Green initiatives, think green and think clean, man. So I says, man, let me tell you about a little game plan, you know. We got these ministers that are coming up with stuff for church for Valentine's Day. It's like, man, they're like, that guy could just walk in there and be like, here's all this stuff for Valentine's Day. You know, those are the guys that aren't in the church. They're of the church, man. Trying to get people in the church to be of the church, you know. Like that little missionary, man. I was just like, man, that guy went out there, man, in the field with nothing. And he's like, man, I want to get some for God, man. I said, hold on. And I went to those churches and I'm like, man, they look like half empty. My dad growing up says, man, is the cup half empty or half full? And I'm like, it's more than a trophy, man. It's like God's cup, man. It's like cup. Is it half empty or half full? You know, it's like what's in the brain. You know, the brain controls how much blood the heart pumps. Did you take care of the brain to take care of the heart? I says, man, that's the heart of America, man. Why you think we got so many churches? It says, man, it's a mission statement. It says, if the church is half empty, you know, then maybe we didn't have enough ideas. So God says, build more churches. He says, but those churches are half empty. It says, if you build more churches, then they'll know what it's about and they'll run to those churches. This is, man, if you build those churches, they'll fill them up. You know, they'll fill them up. They go, what do you mean? This is, well, you know, if that church is half empty and there ain't enough people in it, it says, man, I tell you what, you get one of those guys out there in the field and say, man, look at all these terrible stuff people are doing. It's like, can't you go to church? And when they go to church, they're like, hey, look at those people, man. They're acting a little crazy. It says, no, man. You see those people? I went to New Life Church. They're like, man, I can't believe that guy wrote me an email and says he's going to sit in the back of the church. Why are you sitting in the back of the church? Because the people on the front lines, man, are closest to the example. They're like, man, I need to sit in the front of the church, you know? That way I make sure I hear what that preacher says. So they put their their workers on the front line to protect those people in the church. And then they put the people that need them, they mix them in with some of the good people, in the middle of the church. That's the middle class. And then they got those secret, silent service members in the back of the church. Or maybe some of those people are too shy to go sit with the church, so they sit in the back of the church. That's how you feel the stadium. It's like, man, that preacher sitting in that pulpit, and he's like, man, I'm getting ready to preach for God. We're about to have a football game with the angels saving earth. So, this is how do you prepare? How do I prepare? Let me see what I got. Sometimes I think about so much stuff. I got to take notes, man. Let me tell you what Jesus did thousands of years ago. And they keep repeating it. It's like they don't understand. So they've just been mimicking that forever. It's like, how do we get out of that loop? He made a movie and called it Looper. And they had Captain Kirk stuck in the loop of eternity, Did all this Star Trek stuff. And it says, man, how do we get some of that stuff to stay on the television and some of that stuff off of the television and into the world? How do I do that? And he says, man, better together, watch this. Some guy, he says, hold on, I'll be right back. I got to get her to the chapel because she didn't deserve it. He says, what do you mean? He says, well, maybe she just learned the wrong way. Maybe she was taught the wrong way. Maybe she didn't have the opportunity. She didn't deserve it. I took her down to the First Christian Church, man, like a Federal Communications Commission. She was embarrassed. She said, I don't have any money for the offering tray. I says, I've got 2 quarters. I got 2 quarters. Everybody's putting their money into these envelopes and sticking them into the collection tray. I says, I'm not ashamed. I got 2 quarters. I put 2 quarters into that tray. I'm about to make 2 phone calls to God. And then I'm going to show him heaven on earth. So my mother of mission says, hold on. You show them, Joey. Because we had enough of kangaroo court. And so have the judges. So, what's my SIS British Secret Service plan? Oh. Yeah, sometimes you got to think about the Spanish or the English, And it says, well, if the Y is silent, because they don't know why. They don't know why God loved the world so much. He says here, I'll send you an agent. More than a real estate agent. They go, man, what we got these real estate agents for? It's like, man, they're the ones trying to get better communities to build better properties. That's a building. We got properties called buildings. And then we've got people that's building those buildings up for more things in the community. What are things? Well, because of the lack of translation between English and Spanish, and all those other languages of the world, America said we've got English and Spanish. And that's why when you dial up on the phone, sometimes you have to hit S for Spanish. That way, we get the Hebrew language that's written from right to left. We say, well, if it was an acronym, we'd say C, education. And then, then we got a Guardian's mission creed, A Guardian, It's ownership of 2 becoming 1, It's guardians. And then when you put that apostrophe in there, it's like, guardians, The 2 become one nation educators, They don't own the education. They own the word and truth and promises of God through symbolism in their public acts and in the home. So my mom growing up used to watch Guiding Light. Guiding Light, yeah, it takes lights through, tubes and electronics and stuff to put that picture on TV. So we had Guiding Light since they couldn't understand the guiding words of God. So my mom, she was watching Guiding Light. Like they call them soaps. It says, look, we got a soap on TV. It's showing you the good stuff and the bad stuff, and you need the parental guidance to guide them through it with Guiding Light, The wisdom of mom and dad. Like a bunch of crazy mad scientists getting ready for this big football game. It ain't here yet, but we're preparing, you know. Not the end, a new beginning, you know. Because Jesus was a fisherman. Now, everybody hears that. And I'll tell you the difference between audio and visual effects. If I say Jesus was a fisherman, you know, if I take that word away and I put a blank there for you to fill in on your own, it says Jesus was a fisherman, a carpenter, an electronics guy, an electrician, you know, a gardener. Who is Jesus? And how do you define that? And it says, man, if I had a secret Santa like a First Family Redemptions, then people go and do their tax returns and they think it's just about money. It says, what have you invested in? I says, man, you just give everybody a bunch of little checks, you know, like $1,200, $1,500, I don't know. It's some stimulus, you know, give them some money to stimulate their minds. And then it says maybe a bunch of friends get together and they put their money together, man, and they go in on something all in. It says, we'll build something. Because it's more than the money and it's more than a building. And man, there's some people, you know, like, hey, if we got 1 year to do this, I said, no, let's do it for 2 years. You know, it's like 2 years. It says, well, some of these people can't hear. I says, if I get it through to their ears for 2 your ears, you know, for two to become one, maybe we'll go out to the desert and have a wedding, you know. From Christmas to New Year, you know, a present that just keeps on giving every year. It's like, man, what did you get for a present this year? It's like, man, I got all these toys and scanning and stuff. Hey, man, I got these educational tools and this stuff too. Man, it's really cool, scientific stuff. Oh, man. So I got fun stuff and scientific stuff. So my parents did growing up. This is, man, if we can give them fun stuff and scientific stuff, and then maybe a little psychology like everybody's been trying to do for thousands of years, well, maybe we'll get them into that charter school because our little boy's going to be a genius one day. And it says, man, that's a cool idea. So a bunch of those military families, it says, man, let's all do that and see, you know, which one's going to be the best. And it says, well, if we make two into one, like, you know, mom and dad, like husband and wife, then one becomes plural. And it's not about one. It's about one for all and all for one. The first family, you know, made that example like they make every year. And they have it 4 years. 4 years. It says, man, why did Trump just give up on that election? It says because he went in there for 4 years. It's for all of your ears to remember what that first family White House is about. And I says, man, I made a wish one day. And I says, I wish they could get the prestige and respect back into the White House. And I voted for that guy. And I says, and for good family. So Trump said, I'm going to let this election go because he voted for me and for the other guys to be good families. And he says, well, I'm going to get that guy into that White House. And man, that first family is going to be a first family again to help all those other families on both sides of the aisle, you know. I said, what's religion? What's traditions? What's customs? You know, a mask mandate, an angel. You know, hey, did you court that lady, man? Did you get to that wedding? You know, some people got traditions and cultures, you know, they got the veil, to pull the veil up from the pull the wool from over their eyes and say, can't you see the gentleman that's standing before you? Do you take him to be your husband? And she says, I do. And I says, you take her to be your wife? I says, I do. Now I'm going to go show the world. You know? If the garden is a grove, man, maybe we'll build a grove church too, you know? What can God do to repair the heart? What's in your impulses? Don't you have electronic, you know, impulses in your brain? Well, it must be bioengineering. You mean it's more than electronics and plantations and earth, you know? And there's a little more science to it. And it says, so if I could get the two to become one, I get the magic of God. You know, because life is magical with positive blessings everywhere. You know, I've got like magic and science. Because it's magic for the faith to believe, you know? It says, man, how can I get these people to see it? It's like, man, I don't know. It's going to be something magical from God. And it says, well, they got to know about science too. So I'm going to get magic and God. And I'm like, magic and God? It says, yeah, man, magical, America, God. You know, God, America, magic. It says, man, we'll build a magic kingdom and a Disneyland, you know? So, if I could slide a pan, like Slide L. Walker from Texas, I'd build an adventure. Going from Jurassic Parks, from medieval times, you know, out into the world and into the universe, space exploration. That's why we got a NASA center, you know. And it says, man, what is a secret agent for God? And it says, well, the secret is this: it takes more than one to be one.